Are we live?
And we're live right now.
We are live here with the Fantasy Whispers. I'm your host today. I'm Austin Sear. You can catch me on Twitter at Austin R. Sear and joined by my co-host, Big Travie. What's going on, Big Travie?
What's up, man? Good hair day. It's Aloha Friday. I'm feeling it. We've got a lot of crazy injury news, but I'm feeling good other than that.
Aloha Friday. I love that word because it's hello, goodbye at the same time. Johnny, aloha. How are you doing, Game Time Hicks?
Uh no days off. I got my Bill Belichick sweater on. I'm still in the lab. Like I'm crunching numbers, all that stuff. No Aloha Friday for me.
No Aloha Friday
Two
for you.
different vibes.
The island spirit is not with you.
No.
Aloha to that. All right. So this is the news and notes show of Whisper Nation. Thank you so much for joining us this Friday afternoon. We're going to be running through a lot of the headlines, some of the injury reports, giving you all the up-to-date information before we head into this weekend slate of matchups. Boy, week one showed us some things we were expecting, showed us some things we were not expecting. Anything you think we should be keeping an eye out for, Travi, in this next week two before we start jumping into these news and notes? Anything you'd like to impart with Whisper Nation?
Yeah, something I was actually interested of talking about a little bit is, a lot of over-unders got smashed in week one. I think Vegas was really conservative, thought that the teams were going to play a little more sloppy, and we actually saw quite a bit of good games and good play out of players, especially veterans and these teams with continuity. So remember that if you're kind of tempted on, who to start, I think good tiebreakers are one, continuity in this COVID landscape and stuff that's been going on, and then two, high over unders. You want to get a part of games where teams have high team totals projected by Vegas because that we play for points and there should be more points scored in those games.
Great source to fall back on, the Vegas odds. They really know what they're doing. They're paid more than anybody else to give you the best answers available. If you're not sure, you can always check those for reference. Love that, Travi. And you were right, man. A lot of weird outcomes with the over-unders. Johnny, Game Time Hicks. Before we jump into these news and notes, headlines from around the league, anything you'd like to share with Whisper Nation?
One, like and subscribe to the channel if you want to help dominate your league. We can help with that. That would be one. The second thing is to also just take a second and just take a deep breath, exhale, relax a little bit. It is week 2. We have been getting a lot of people on both sides of the spectrum, whether they won or lost last week, are making their rounds if they're 1-0, thinking they just won the entire thing. And then you also have people who are 0-1 thinking the end of the world is around the corner, which that could possibly be. But it is just week 2. There is a lot of football left. It is young. We have to remember this is basically preseason football. At least for this game, this past week and this week, is these guys are still getting into shape. They're still getting the feel, and so guys might be a little slow, but that's where you get the opportunities to buy guys low that should outperform all of that stuff on panic owners. But guys, don't panic. We'll get you to the promised land. Just stick with us. It'll be fun.
Stick with us. Like Johnny said, make sure you like and subscribe to catch all of that daily content coming your way to give you that weekly and daily edge because it is a marathon run. It's a marathon sprint, if you will. You're going to have waiver wire news that comes out. Who's available that's going to give you a leg up? We've got injuries that go down. Swoop up that next best player available who's going to be swallowing up those vacated targets from that injury. So stick with us. And we're going to jump into it right now here with the news and notes. First one, big one. Travi, Kenny Golladay is officially out for week 2. He's going to miss his second straight game now with a hamstring injury. This would, in theory, open up a bunch of targets in the Detroit offense. Marvin Jones, he drew 20% of the team's targets last week without Golladay active, but was still second to Quintez Cephas, who saw 24% of his passes, and Hawkinson was no slouch either. What does this news do to the rest of the wide receiver core and the Detroit Lions, Big Travi?
Yeah, this is a little bit of a weird one, especially because Galladay was in such a smash spot this year. You're really frustrated if you drafted him. He should have been, a lock for top 10, at least volume, and with that quarterback he's got in Matt Stafford, you're just frustrated. If we're looking at the Lions receiving core, it's hard to say I trust Quintez Cephas more than Marvin Jones, but he did see the larger target share with 10% or with 10 targets last week to Marvin Jones's 8. But then also I liked what I saw out of Amendola moving the chains as the Golden Tate representative in that offense. So I think against this Green Bay team where they are projected to be down, you might see Matthew Stafford lean on Amendola, Quintez Cephas, and even TJ Hawkinson more than Marvin Jones. Now, there will be shots to take here. We got to remember that the Packers gave up 2 long bombs to Adam Thielen. So Marvin Jones is worth that what the heck flex. He could definitely pop in there for a touchdown or a big play. He's done it before, and he's done it before to the Packers. But yeah, I would try to steer clear of this wide receiving core if you could.
All right. And in Denver, Philip Lindsay is officially out, halfback for the Denver Broncos. Melvin Gordon is going to be really the only back now. Or is there something else we should be keeping an eye out for, Johnny? How does this toe news of Philip Lindsay affect the Denver Broncos and their running back situation, as well as the rest of the offensive weapons?
Yeah, I expect Melvin Gordon to get the bulk of the carries. Now, Royce Freeman will garner some carries because they're not going to give every single carry to Melvin Gordon. So you should see, a little workload for Freeman. But the majority of the carries are going to go to Melvin Gordon. I don't know, though. He's more of still like a fringe RB2, even though he's going to get the bulk of those carries because he is going up against such a vaunted defense. And, that does make me a little bit concerned there.
Good points. Joe Baker in the chat thread. Shout out to Joe Baker, along with everybody else from Whisper Nation hopping on the live stream on YouTube. Great to have you with us on this Friday afternoon. Joe Baker asks, thoughts on James Conner this week? We know that he had an injury. Some people on the internet thought maybe it actually wasn't an injury. Did you see any of those headlines? Did you see those conspiracy theories?
No, I love this. You brought the last one with the Joe Mixon. I'm interested in this one.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So,
our resident conspiracy theorist out here, Austin, I love it.
When you heard, the last play James Conner was on the field for before he exited, homeboy popped up pretty spry, and he popped up pretty pissed. And a lot of folks around the NFL community were thinking, was this maybe Mike Tomlin's way of just giving Benny Snell a real shot at seeing what he was capable of? And Conner was sidelined, really not so much because of an injury concern, but throwing a little smoke your way to see what Benny Snell was about without having anybody be too embarrassed over there. That's the word on the internet right now, that there wasn't actually an injury, that he was a healthy pull. They wanted to unleash Benny Snell, and now James Conner's a full go. So, injury or conspiracy leading to him not playing for most of the game last week. How are you feeling about the running back situation in Pittsburgh? Big Travie, I know that James Conner has been somebody you were smashing all off season here, talking about trying to get your hands on, trying to get some of that James Conner stock. How are you feeling about it right now?
Not good at all, Austin. And whether it's your conspiracy theory or at least the one that you've seen on the internet with him, not being an injury, or the other one that I've heard, which is he came in injured already and just re-aggravated an ankle that they didn't tell us about. Either way, this smells bad. It looks bad. And usually if it smells bad and looks bad, it is bad. And I don't want any part of this Pittsburgh running back core, especially this week, because if Snell's healthy and Conner's healthy, we know that Tomlin doesn't use both backs, but I've got to see Conner play a full game on that ankle, get a full allotment of snaps as the bell cow that he's supposed to be before I'm trusting either of these guys in my lineup.
Here's something I want to say.
If I'm looking to feast.
I mean, here's what I want to say on Travis. I mean, he made a good point. Like usually if it, smells bad and looks bad, it is bad. But we're a bunch of guys we're a bunch of guys on here, and as we know, my wife can attest, for some reason, we all love to, when something smells bad, we like to tell each other and say, hey, smell this. Just take our word for it, Whisper Nation. This smells bad. We're telling you stay away. Don't go after it. Don't smell it. Don't look at it. Just
it's not like when you have something and you're like, you wouldn't like this because you're trying to keep it all to yourself. This is definitely something you want to keep away from all of you guys in Whisper Nation. I'm telling you, I can't trust it yet. And this is a guy who's been James Conner's biggest believer. I mean, Austin told you guys there, like I've been banging the drum for James Conner for over 2 years now, and I'm still not touching him this week.
And even if James Conner ends up looking pretty good, Benny Snell looked really good last week, and he's certainly given a challenge to that bell cow role that Mike Tomlin anointed James Conner with before week 1. Even if Conner's fully healthy, why the hell would you give him 100% of the snaps right now? I just don't think that makes a ton of sense. So I would agree. I would just pause on it a little bit until we have some more clarity moving forward. So moving over now to Dallas. Tyron Smith, Cowboys left tackle. He's got a neck issue. He's questionable for week 2. That line is looking pretty banged up the way that Semi had put it. And I kind of want to get your take, Johnny, on how this depleted line, which we believe has resulted in Dak Prescott's shortened yards per completion. He's just kind of dinking and dunking and trying to get the ball out of his hands before he gets taken out. If the line is beat up, which it is, how is this going to impact Dak, Ezekiel Elliott, and those wide receiving options last week? Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the NFL, CeeDee.
Well, I definitely think they're kind of lucky in the fact that they get Atlanta, right? Because Atlanta is not the scariest defense. So I'm not sure that it will be, majorly affected against them. Yeah, you'll see more pressure on him. He'll have to do a lot more. I am concerned because every single time we've ever seen, anything wrong with that line, we've seen a problem with Dak or a problem with Zeke running behind there. So there is some cause for concern. It is something that you're going to want to monitor. But, this weekend, I still feel confident rolling out Dak. He should feast in this matchup with this line, a little banged up. I know Amari's a little banged up as well, but I do expect CeeDee Lamb to get a little bit more targets. And I do think that this is kind of like a little bit more of a feast game for Gallup. I think he has a bounce back game as well.
Yeah, I like those points, Johnny. And you mentioned Amari Cooper's a little banged up. The official designation's a bruised foot. That's a whole lot better than a ankle sprain or any small fractures or anything like that. But not easy to run on, Travis. How are you feeling about Amari Cooper against Atlanta right now, given all the kinds of issues that are going on with him? No exception either. Amari Cooper, Travis, what do you think about him in week 2?
Amari Cooper is trying to do his best Julio Jones light impression, where he ends up on the injury report all the time, but plays through the injury and then sees a ton of volume. I think that's what we're going to see out of a lot of out of Amari Cooper this year. And we'll see how Dallas treats that, given the depth they have at wide receiver behind him. But it seems to me, I mean, and the report is that he said he's going to play. Like this is fine for him, is basically what he's saying. So I'm not trusting in Cooper here, especially in such a smash spot. Atlanta giving up 4 touchdowns, including DK Metcalf, who burned them for 90 yards. Like it's like that secondary is going to be bad all year, and it's going to put the Atlanta side of the ball in great position. But in this case, you're firing up your Dallas weapons. This is a nice bounce back spot. If we think Dallas was a dink and dunk offense last week, we really like where they're set up this week to attack that defense of Atlanta.
Love those points there. I know a lot of talk coming into this season had Kenny Golladay being that 1B, and he very well might be. But after week 1, it was definitely the Amari Cooper show. That was the wide receiver 1, Dak's favorite weapon. And CeeDee Lamb, Johnny's boy, actually outperformed Michael Gallup. I would expect Michael Gallup to continue to improve, though. We know that man is no joke. But Amari Cooper right now, if he's playing, it looks like a pretty exciting start. We'll see how he does right now. I like that Julio Jones-like comp over there, Travi. Want to jump into a couple of questions we get from Whisper Nation in the live chat before we move on to Tampa Bay. Again, big shout out to everybody here in Whisper Nation. Joe Baker, Jacob Bley, #1 fan, Seth Sconiers. Good to have you with us. Jacob Bley says, Kenny G killing me. You and everybody else, man. That is such a bummer, such a letdown one there.
Yeah.
Prayers up for that quad. that hammy. Jordan asks, would you trade Jonathan Taylor for Lamar Jackson? Johnny, I know you are. Actually, no. I'm sorry, not Johnny. I want to kick this one over to Travis because you are somebody who's had a championship one with Lamar Jackson. You're somebody who just had a major come up in your upside down draft, taking Jonathan Taylor a little bit late with that Marlon Mack Achilles news. So, what about you, Travi? Would you be trading Jonathan Taylor for Lamar Jackson? Asks Jordan.
I would. I answered this one in the chat, but I do want to just make the point that it just depends on roster construction here. If you have made out on a lot of running back depth, it might be good to sell high on Jonathan Taylor. But I would advise not most of times, and I'd say 9 times out of 10, you're not trading a guy with like Jonathan Taylor, even for a quarterback with the upside of Lamar Jackson. Because here's the thing: you can replace most of Lamar Jackson's points on a week-to-week basis, even just by streaming the position. If you flip it to the running back position, the upside that Jonathan Taylor has now with the Marlon Mack injury is really through the roof. Like, we're talking league-winning upside with Jonathan Taylor, and so it's hard for me to ever advise trading that away. It just doesn't make a lot of sense for me.
That's a good take here. Second question, Johnny. Seth asks, Hines and Mostert or Carson, and Mostert or Hines and Carson? Keep in mind, Hines against Minnesota and Carson against New England. It is PPR. So It sounds like a pick 2 there of Hines, Mostert, between Hines, Mostert, and Carson.
I would go Mostert and Hines on this one. I am
Carson.
I am worried about Carson's usage. I'm worried about I'm starting to really believe they are going to let Russell cook this year, which is very awesome for anyone who got Russell Wilson, because I think he could really explode for fantasy purposes this year at the quarterback position. But I am concerned that Carson is being used more as a scat back, and therefore his touches are going way down. And he just happened to fall into the end zone this week, which he will get in the end zone. But I just have I'm concerned.
Yeah, what, like 45% snap share there for Chris Carson?
Yeah.
Expecting him to be a volume play? Yeah, so they're all kind of dealing with a timeshare there. Not a bad problem to have. Moving here now on to Mike Evans and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He is going to play. Big Mike Evans, he is back. His hamstring is still attached. And this will be the first time he's practiced in full in the last 2 weeks. That was today. Travis, how are you feeling right now about Mike Evans, especially with that Kenny Golladay news? He's not looking likely with the concussion protocol. He's still in there. How are you feeling about Mike Evans week 2?
Yeah, Chris Godwin in concussion protocol. Probably not going to play. Especially whenever you're added to concussion protocol in the middle of the week after a game, it's usually not a good sign. Players don't usually return to get back into the game. Mike Evans came out of that game with 2 things working in his favor. One, he said he didn't have any setbacks and he's feeling a lot better with his hamstring. And 2, Bruce Arians actually quoted saying he feels bad every time that Mike Evans doesn't get 10 targets. That is something that you really like to see. I think Roto World was quoted saying you can literally hear Mike Evans' grease getting applied to his squeaky wheel right now when Bruce Arians says that. So I loved that little take there, and I just love where Mike Evans is at. I think this is a smash spot against a Carolina team that just has basically a shell of a defense.
Tom Brady said he wanted to make Mike Evans a living legend. This is a good week to start making that story a reality. Another decent story, another interesting one here is Corey Davis. Yes, the one and only Corey Davis, year in, year out. One of these kinds of guys, extremely high draft capital. I believe he was taken 4th overall. He's in his 5th year now, I think. 4th or 5th year. Either way, he's
4th year.
25 years old. He is behind A.J. Brown, but A.J. Brown is out. A.J. Brown is officially out for week 2. He's dealing with a bone bruise in his knee. This could last beyond week 2 as well. Johnny, how are you feeling about the prospect of Corey Davis, who is also dealing with a hamstring injury, but he is going to be playing? How are you feeling about Corey Davis and the Tennessee Titans going into week 2 here?
I like Corey Davis a lot more than with A.J. Brown not there. I do think that this explains a lot of why Corey Davis was so targeted. heavily last week was because AJ Brown was dealing with this. They didn't really reveal it until after the game, which would explain why AJ Brown kind of struggled. Especially you saw it on the touchdown where Tannehill kind of overthrew him and he was wide open. He was a little slow and hobbled. So moving forward, that Corey Davis should get the bulk of these these targets out of this back, or out of this wide receiver core. And then I think they'll continue to lean on Derrick Henry. I think this is also good news for Derrick Henry because they'll target him more in the passing game. But I also think it's the biggest news for Jonnu Smith, who looked great, and I think will continue his breakout season with this news of AJ Brown going down. And so, yeah, I would start Corey Davis as a nice flex, and then you're starting up Jonnu.
Yeah, I like that mention there about Jonnu Smith in his breakout year. Jonnu Smith kind of strikes me like a George Kittle light right now, and there's not a ton of aerial options available. He's going to be getting peppered. You expect him to from his quarterback. But speaking of George Kittle, he's been officially ruled out by Kyle Shanahan. He's dealing with a knee sprain right now. Big Travie, how does George Kittle being out affect the rest of the 49ers offense, their pass catching weapons? Is Jordan Reed a guy you should be targeting this week? He is the backup tight end over there in San Francisco. What are your thoughts, Big Travie?
Jordan Reed is definitely interesting, especially with the way that Shanahan's offense, this particular offense, has just kind of gravitated towards the tight end position. But a lot of that has had to do with the special talent of George Kittle. I would actually upgrade both pass catching backs in Mostert. I can't believe I'm saying pass catching back in Mostert, but that's what he did last week. And then also Jerick McKinnon here. It will also be interesting to see how the 49ers use Tevin Coleman after only giving him the 6 carries last week, given, maybe that was air quality or whatever else. But in this smash spot against the Jets, where they're favored, heavily here, still even with probably the Kittle news, you like what the backs will be able to do. So, to Johnny's point, he answered that question that we had in the chat there with Mostert as the most assured one in that trio of backs. Mostert is getting locked in, and then McKinnon is kind of a what the heck flex. Given his ability to be used within the red zone and his ability to be used within the passing game. So that's kind of the upgrade for me. I think if you're, in daily and you want to take a dart throw at any of these wide receivers, Kendrick Bourne's probably the most interesting one to me, given his snap share from last week and kind of what we're looking at with Kittle out.
Fair points there. Keep an eye out for these updates coming. A lot of them seem to be popping out of San Francisco. Johnny, I want to ask you a question from the Cat's Pajamas. Shout out to the Listener League member. He's talking about Michael Thomas. What's his trade value now? So, Johnny, we know that Michael Thomas has a high ankle sprain. The man is a beast, Michael Thomas, and he is talking about beating that timetable of recovery, which is usually a month plus. And there's whispers he could even be playing this week, or suiting up at least to come and give it a go. What is your take on Michael Thomas? And then Cat's Pajamas' specific question of his trade value now, given the injury.
Yeah, I would hold on to Michael Thomas. You're not going to be able to trade him for anything valuable. You're going to way undersell him if you let him go now, which is, I know it's unfortunate, but you got to just sit on your bench until he's healthy. And hopefully, you would like to see him sit out and get fully healthy before he comes back because, we know a lot about high ankle sprains. If you don't let them fully heal, they will continue to hinder you all season. And look, I understand Michael Thomas is good, but high ankle sprain is no joke. We've hinder a lot of talented wide receivers. So it's just like, as a guy who rosters Michael Thomas, you just kind of want to let him sit. And it's unfortunate, not going to be able to do much with him, but just keep him. You get rid of him, you're gonna lose value.
And Travie, another talented wide receiver that's dealing with an injury that's looking like he's going to be playing through it. DeVante Parker, questionable to play week 2 against the Bills. That's a tough defensive back matchup there. He's going to be going up against a very strong secondary with Buffalo. He also played just 37% of the snaps in week 1. He did come out in the first half after re-aggravating that hamstring injury. But if DeVante Parker is playing, if he is active out there for Miami, are you looking forward to starting him in your lineups? Or are you trying to look at your roster and see if there's another spot start for DeVante Parker in week 2?
It's like those rare occurrences, I think, even with Michael Thomas and then even Mike Evans last week, where you wish you were the actual GM and coach of this team and not just the fantasy GM and coach, because you'd be saying, just sit down and rest. Please just rest. And I think that's the case with DeVante Parker. The matchup's not great. Even if he goes, he's probably on a pitch count. Tre'Davious White is going to shadow either him or Preston Williams. And so, in either case, even if he goes, I don't like either of the Miami wide receivers this week. It's a really, really tough draw.
Most definitely. Michael Pittman's the next on the dock to talk about, and this goes along with Bob Crowley from the Whisper Nation chat right now, talking about the Colts, talking about their wide receivers. Bob Crowley asks, do you think CD is going to be a better flex position with a limited Amari Cooper than Paris Campbell? Paris Campbell, second-year wide receiver, had a lot of targets from Phillip Rivers last week. He looked really good. And right now, Michael Pittman had an incident with his toe in practice and will be evaluated over the next 48 hours. So, Johnny, I want to know what your thought right now is on Paris Campbell and how Paris Campbell would compare to CD Lamb right now, especially given the injury concerns with Amari Cooper. And Travis, I'd love to hear your thoughts following Johnny's on that one, because I saw you drop quite a bit of wob on Paris Campbell in our League of Records. So I'd like to hear your thoughts after Johnny's.
So I would start Paris Campbell over CD Lamb this week because Paris Campbell, like the news, the Michael Pittman news doesn't change the answer whatsoever, because Michael Pittman wasn't on the
He's
field
like a
very much.
non-factor last week.
Yeah, it was actually Zach Pascal who got the third most snaps on that team. So that didn't really have any effect on this answer, but it's going to be Paris Campbell, who I actually think is going to be a monster breakout. If he is on your waiver wire, go pick him up right now because he is going to be a PPR monster. Phillip Rivers and him have an instant connection, and he is the number one option there. Like, I know we want to say it's T.Y. Hilton, and we love that story about how great T.Y. Hilton is, and we have these other guys, Michael Pittman, who looks to be a boss wide receiver, but it's just not. It's going to be Paris Campbell. That is all the beat reporters are saying. That connection is it, and so I would and that matchup this weekend is fantastic. So I would go I would go Paris Campbell.
Yeah, this one is tough, right? Because they're in very similar spots, except for what Johnny pointed out. The Paris Campbell's path to opportunity is a little bit more clear than CD Lamb's, but they're both in very high over-unders. They're both playing against defenses that let up 4 touchdowns last week to the opposing quarterback. They're both in high-powered offenses and what should be shootouts. So I really do love CD's outlook as a flex this week. But I'm with Johnny, and you talked about me dropping the wob. It was really about the season-long aspect for Paris Campbell. He's a second-year player who had a lost first year because of his injuries, but then he also profiles to be just the kind of receiver that Phillip Rivers loves. We look at Keenan Allen last year, or in all of his time with Phillip Rivers, he got peppered with targets because of his run in the slot. Well, here's the thing about Paris Campbell: he runs a 4.40, not a 4.740, which is what Keenan Allen ran. So Paris Campbell is actually Keenan Allen, but with a lot more upside, in my opinion, because he can actually get out and stretch the field. Really love what Indy's put together here. They didn't punt at all last week, and I know they turned the ball over because of 2 Rivers interceptions, but not punting the ball, being very efficient, throwing to the backs and these speedy wide receivers. And I just think they're going to torch Minnesota, and you want pieces of this offense. And Paris Campbell I agree with Johnny. Paris Campbell's the play here.
As somebody who grabbed Paris Campbell in our Dynasty startup, I'm a big fan. Love hearing all this love coming Paris Campbell's way, but I'd just like to throw in that Paris Campbell is also my vote over CD Lamb, because CD Lamb is going to have great games. He might lead the team in targets a couple of weeks here and there, but CD Lamb realistically is never going to be the number one option this season. It would be such a crazy, historic series of events to make CD Lamb a rookie wide receiver, leapfrog 2 former first-round picks in Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup, 2 first-round picks. We're not talking like DeVante Parker, Brashad Perriman, Corey Davis first-round picks. We're talking about dudes who have come in, produced their rookie seasons, and gotten better every year after that for the most part. So CeeDee Lamb's path to dominate the depth chart is very, very hard to overcome. And versus Paris Campbell, who is a second-year player who had a lot of upside, really only going up against T.Y. Hilton, who we know is phenomenal, like we've said a lot, was Andrew Luck's anointed best football player he's ever played with. But he's over year 30. He's playing with a brand new quarterback. That chemistry is not solidified. And you have Paris Campbell, second-year wide receiver, who has a real path, like Johnny said, to be the number one option for Indianapolis. So I would agree with those takes as well, and just offering that up there. Rock Lee says, love the setup. Love you, Rock Lee. Thanks for that. He also makes a great point there. He says 15 watching, only 8 likes. Smash the like button, ladies and gents. Yes, listen to Rock Lee here, please. Smash that like button. Hit the subscribe one. If you're following along here, it is tremendously appreciated. It goes a long way. We literally share among our group chat every time we grab a new follower. So would appreciate that, no doubt. Thank you for all the love, Rock Lee, and thanks for being a part of the Listener League and beating Chelsea and I last week by 2 points in a heartbreaker kick by Steven Gostkowski to close it out at the closing seconds of the game and beat us by 2 points. Love that. Moving forward, the Eagles running back Miles Sanders says he's ready to go for week 2. 100% ready to go, the man says. Travis also messaged me that DeVante Freeman could be meeting with the Eagles. DeVante Freeman has said that he's considering 4 different teams to sign with, but he'd like to wait another week before he makes up his mind, the Eagles being one of them. So, Travi, how are you feeling about Miles Sanders, his 100% healthy leg, and some of the running back dynamics in Philadelphia right now, DeVante Freeman or otherwise?
I feel pretty good about Miles Sanders. Look, I drafted him in a couple of leagues. I enjoy the upside that Miles Sanders brings to the table. I do have concerns about the offensive line. I do have concerns about the Eagles' depth behind him at running back. But you don't mind that as a a GM with Sanders on your roster. You like the fact that he's going to have to maybe be relied on for this offense to move the ball. It was not an encouraging sign. You saw Carson Wentz kind of dying for his life out there against the Washington football team. So you like Sanders back in this offense, should upgrade that for him. But keep an eye on that Freeman signing. It's not anything you love to see, but I think it might be more about the depth behind Sanders.
Yeah, and I think other than that, the initial points before DeVante Freeman started going on his new team tour after signing a new agent, he wanted to have a path towards getting a lot of touches. He wanted to be somebody involved. And that, I believe, is an impact on where he is going to end up be signing. I'd be kind of surprised personally to see him side with Philadelphia. If he did, I would think it because it's a fun play. You expect to be an efficient team competing for a playoff spot. But there's no way in my mind that he's going to jump over Miles Sanders, which is leading me into Rock Lee's question here. Bigger bounce back this week, Miles Sanders or Austin Eckler, Johnny? Who would you rather be starting, Miles Sanders or Austin Eckler week 2?
Miles Sanders. And it's not even close. I'm really concerned with Austin Eckler. I was concerned before the season even started. I don't own Eckler in any leagues because I was concerned of this very thing. And so I think Miles Sanders, he's saying he's 100% and ready to go, and I think he is. So, and that line should be a lot better this week than it was last week with Lane Johnson practicing and things like that. So.
Yeah, and even though the Rams have Aaron Donald, I would say that the Washington football team's line is probably better than a lot of lines in the league with Kerrigan, Montez Sweat, and then also first-round pick Chase Young. So I would agree with Johnny that the line's got a better outlook for this week just based on who they're playing and the health. But then also Sanders' path to receiving work is actually now more clear than Austin Eckler's. And Johnny's concerns were in the offseason, look, Tyrod Taylor does not throw to his backs consistently, and that's what we're seeing kind of with already after 1 week with Austin Eckler.
Yeah, and let's not forget, too, that they want Miles Sanders to be the bell cow. Now, if that was just coach speak or sincere commentary from the coaching staff, Miles Sanders was slotted to be the workhorse back. Austin Eckler was never slotted to be that role. I was really shocked to see his 19 touches he pulled in, but Josh Kelly, I think, surpassed their expectations for a week 1 role, as where Boston Scott did not surpass expectations as far as I'm concerned with Miles Sanders being out. So I would agree that Miles Sanders, if he's in,
say that when
that's the bet.
he ran for 3.9 yards per carry, and his line wasn't there? That's not an accurate.
With Austin Eckler?
No,
With
Boston
who?
Scott. Never mind.
I said I wasn't impressed with Boston Scott.
Right, you said you weren't,
What's
and
the
I
case for
said
Boston Scott,
how
Johnny?
are you not impressed with a guy when he runs for 3.9 yards per carry, and he has a terrible offensive line going against one of the best offensive lines? I think I'm just saying I think that was.
You're impressed with Boston Scott sub 4 yards per carry, is what you're saying,
I
because
think
the line
that's
is so bad.
I think you get this thing in your head that you have to be over 4 yards per carry every single time you carry the ball. That's not right. Like, he went against one of the best defensive lines in football, if not the best defensive front in football, with a banged up offensive line that had Carson Wentz scrambling all day, and he still ran for 3.9 yards, which is 0.1 yards under your threshold of 4, and you're going to say he's a failure now on 9 carries? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
I just said I wasn't impressed. If he had broken 4 yards per carry, given the tough
0.1
defensive
yards,
line
like 0.1 yards makes that much of a difference? It doesn't. It shouldn't.
we got a Boston Scott truther over here, and Johnny. Watch out, man. Boston Scott. I'm just saying, like, he can be fine. He can be a fine spot start, but was he impressive? Like, if you want to go ahead and anoint 3.9 yards per carry because of the circumstances he's playing under.
Did you actually watch him run? Or are you just saying you're looking at the box score and saying, oh, he wasn't impressive? Because that's what you're doing.
I'll just come in here and say the deeper analytics say that he had 3.56 yards per contact yards after contact per attempt. So that's per Pro Football Focus. So that would actually kind of side a little bit with Johnny, that he was a more consistent runner after he got hit, and actually kind of progressed the ball a little bit better. But I don't think that we're spinning the wheels here on Boston Scott, who is clearly going to be the backup to Miles Sanders if he's healthy. It is not a situation that I think we want to get into, though. Akil04 asks, "Do you like
no Benny Snell?"
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Go ahead.
Do you like Gallup, Paris Campbell, or Deontay Johnson this week at flex in PPR league? This one's tough for me. I'm actually, I mean, maybe I'm blinded by the Paris Campbell love, but I really love Paris Campbell, especially in a PPR. So I'm probably going to go with Paris Campbell here. Although Deontay's 10 targets was pretty nice. So
Deontay should see the Antonio Brown role, which Big Ben really loves. But again, it's just got to be a little bit more consistent. But I'm very excited for Deontay Johnson, league-wide, season long. I would actually go and try to trade for him right now, because people look at the box score and see that he didn't have a good fantasy game, but he was targeted a lot, and Big Ben likes that type of receiver who you could just throw to and get in space and let him do the work.
So I want to talk about a super exciting team over the New York Jets, everybody's favorite offensive mind, leading the show in Adam Gase. Jamison Crowder had a great week last week, over 100 yards. That big play was the target. He's out, hamstring. Man, they're chomping. He's out for week 2 against the 49ers. We know that Le'Veon Bell's not going to be playing either. Is there anybody over there in the New York Jets roster that you, Johnny, would like to be getting your hands on, or anything to keep in mind now with the Jamison Crowder news out week 2?
I'm staying away from this at all costs. I wouldn't start anybody. I wouldn't look their way. I wouldn't even watch this game, to be honest with you. No, I'm just kidding. Watch the game if you're a fan of the Jets. I apologize. Gary V, I know he'll be there, so and he likes watching. But no, I mean, this is just sad, and it sucks for Sam Darnold because all the beat reporters and all the reports are saying that this guy is a true talent, but unfortunately we can't tell or we can't see it because Adam Gase is that terrible of a head coach, and the owner still seems to think that he's great. So that's unfortunate, but I'm not starting anybody on this roster.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair one there. We talked about Tampa Bay. It's actually worth noting the news now is Chris Godwin. He returned to practice on Friday. He is in danger. He's still in the concussion protocol, but this does put him on track to suit up. He's going to need to clear some hurdles, so definitely keep an eye. There are going to be updates between this live broadcast and kickoff on Sunday. But Travi, would you be starting Chris Godwin if Chris Godwin himself is starting?
I think you've probably got to put Godwin in if he's starting here, especially in this spot against Carolina. I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be too worried about it if they clear him to play, but I find it hard to believe they'll clear him to play in time. It just usually doesn't happen that you get added on middle of the week and then get cleared by Sunday. But I don't know. We've had crazier things happen in the NFL. I do want to bring up something that just came up. We talked about on the other side of that Jets game, the San Francisco pass catchers. Brandon Ayuk is expected to play in this game. Now, I'm not saying you start the rookie right off the bat, but this is something to keep an eye on based on the lack of pass catchers that are going on around there. And it is the Jets, and we just saw Josh Allen throw for 300 yards for the first time in his career against the Jets. So I think that this is actually a very interesting pickup for people, and then also a very interesting, maybe what the heck play this week.
All right, gentlemen, any news and notes you want to mention? I wanted to quickly touch on some of the news from last night's game, but any other points, any other headlines, injury points that you feel the Whisper Nation should know about before we quickly here touch in on a couple of the players from last night's Thursday Night Football?
I just think we should run through these questions real quick that we have by Whisper Chat before Travis has.
Okay, so we have Miles asked, should I start Nyheim Hines or I'm guessing James Robinson here? I'm going Nyheim Hines. Like, this is not really close to me. Robinson's actually going to face a pretty tough defense in Tennessee, a pretty tough defensive front. So I would take Nyheim Hines, especially, and like we've talked about, Indy versus Minnesota is a projected shootout.
Does Robinson's expected volume over Hines give you any pause?
Not really, just because of that front. I'm really worried that this game gets out of hand for Jacksonville. They're dogs by quite a bit to a better Tennessee squad, or at least a better coached Tennessee squad than Indy last week. I think we may have seen a little bit of a flash in the pan with Jacksonville, and so yeah, I think we're going to see more of what we projected to be out of this backfield, where they could get game scripted out.
I like this one right here by
Miles.
Miles.
Shout out to Luca Rosano. He said, "What's up, guys?"
I like this one by
what's up,
Luca? Miles says, would you trade Hines for Mixon? And I think I would. If someone would be willing to take Hines, like if I have Hines and I'm going for Mixon, yeah, because the upside is way better than Hines.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is
really, you would pass on the volume of Mixon for the upside of Hines?
No, I'm saying I would trade Hines for Mixon.
Okay, I would too.
Yeah. I think the people are going to want to buy. You should buy low on Mixon if you can in your league. I think that's a situation where we've seen a lot of times how offensive lines can take a while to gel. And maybe that's the situation that happens in Cincy, where he actually does get better and he continues to get the volume of a bell cow in his offense.
Speaking of Cincy, I just wanted to touch on the 3 catches by AJ Green last night are not good, but the 13 targets are pretty awesome. Is AJ Green a buy low candidate for you, Johnny, right now, or is what we saw last night, this inefficient connection rate, a sign of more to come?
I mean, yeah, that's going to happen. He's a rookie quarterback. He's going to be a little bit over the place. That's going to happen. But you like to see the targets. So, yeah, I do think that AJ Green's a little bit of a buy low because you like to see the targets. And look, if he's going to be passing, 60, I know he's not going to be passing 62 times a game, but that showed that they're not afraid to let him go and throw the ball 60 times in a game. So if you do that, and AJ Green is clearly his number one target, then yeah, I would go get him, especially if you can get him a little bit cheaper because he didn't have the greatest.
Yeah. If he can stay healthy, I really like this offense to be like a late blooming offense. If you look at some of their matchups down the stretch, week 11, Washington, week 12, New York Giants, week 13, Miami, week 14, Dallas. These are some nice matchups to be targeting. So Tyler Boyd, AJ Green, Joe Mixon, like we talked about, and even Joe Burrow are nice, sneaky late round or late season guys to maybe get this going on offense for your fantasy squad.
Speaking of Burrow, the Cat's Pajamas asks, should I sell Burrow high or hang on to him? He's my backup in Superflex leagues. What's your thought on that, Johnny, and Joe Burrow from Cat's Pajamas?
I would hang on to him because he's going to throw a lot. I mean that team will be down. Clearly, like the first game they were trailing against the Chargers, which makes you really wonder how good are the Chargers if they're trailing to the Chargers, and we just saw Cleveland blow them out. So I do think that Joe Burrow will have a lot of games where he'll be throwing a lot, and they have the wide receivers and the weapons to make it tantalizing. It's not like he's throwing to a bunch of no-namers. So definitely he'll make mistakes, but I felt bad because a guy had DM'd me before yesterday's game, and he's like, "Do I go Joe Burrow or do I go Deshaun Watson against the Ravens this weekend?" And I told him, I went with the safer floor with the high. I said go with Deshaun still, but it's looking like Joe Burrow is probably the right choice considering he threw for 3 touchdowns over 300 yards. But that's going to happen with him. It's going to be up and down. But in a 2 quarterback league, I love it. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I think
60 plus pass attempts is pretty nice.
Yep. Yeah, and I think the people are sleeping on Joe Burrow's rushing ability too, which will be a nice floor as they get going.
Right on. Hey, a big shout out over here to Jimmy Navarro. Just said he found us on his recommendations a week ago. Loves the content. Love to have you with us, Jimmy. Welcome to the show. He asks, over under 20 points this week for Nyheim Hines, full point PPR. Travi, Nyheim Hines, full point PPR, over under 20.
I'm going to say under. I think that some of what we saw last week will probably be Nyheim Hines' biggest game, but I don't think that means that he's not going to be a valuable piece. I'm just going to take the under here because I actually think, I'm obviously invested quite a bit in Jonathan Taylor, but I think this is going to be the official Jonathan Taylor coming out party game. And so I like it to swing a little bit in Jonathan Taylor's favor, some of that red zone usage this week.
I think there's a chance that he does.
Yeah, Ahmad. I'll just bouncing over here to the last question as we start wrapping up this Friday news and notes. Ahmed asks, should I play Hawkinson as a backup for Kittle, or is there a tight end you think I should sign? I like Hawkinson in this Kenny Dallas world.
Yeah,
I agree with you, ARC. I think that Hawkinson's a great play, especially a great backup to have if you have Kittle. I think what we saw out of Hawkinson was great, and he was on limited snaps. And I think as this season progresses, they're going to put his snaps even higher up because they're just trying to work him back from injury. So I really like what I'm seeing out of there. I think there was a question about a tight end waiver. Yeah, Zaxby's Liga, Kittle being out, who is a waiver wire tight end I can get. In the chat, I said Logan Thomas, but Johnny, what are you thinking about some of the waiver wire tight ends that are there?
I think, call me crazy, but I think Jimmy Graham is a late dart throw tight end that you can maybe throw in there. I really like the Chris Herndon one or the Logan Thomas. I think that both of those guys could get you some points. But yeah, I would probably, considering the news with out of the Jets, I would probably go and try to see if Herndon is available because now he's like literally the only guy to catch targets now or catch balls out from Sam Darnold. So that's probably where I would go there.
I've got a few more minutes. We've got questions popping in here late trying to keep us on here. So I want to get to some of these. Josh,
give the people what they want.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Josh Twenter says Gallup, Shark, Fuller, Cup, Standard. Need to start 2. Standard League. Austin, I'm going to ask you here because I want to see your take on this one.
I'm an upside player. Shark and Fuller are the choices I'd roll out this week, but you really don't have any bad options. Shark and Fuller look like the clear, unquestioned number ones for their teams. Gallup was the number 3 receiver last week. I don't expect that to continue, but that's what it was last week. And Cooper Kupp looked a lot better than a lot of us, I think, expected, with the expectation of 12-person personnels rolling out for the Rams. Kupp looked good, but Shark and Fuller did as well, and I love their upsides and their role on the team.
Want to say, if you guys are new to our channel right now and tuning in, please hit that like and subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified whenever we go live, which we do on Fridays, sometimes Saturdays, and on Sundays as well, to get you ready for those lineup questions. So make sure you hit
And
subscribe.
on Monday, and on Tuesday, and on Wednesday.
And
I mean, we
every
just got
day.
it rolling, baby. We don't
John-
have lives so that you guys can have great fantasy football lives. That's what we do over here.
Ooh, I like that.
That's what we do. It's really an act of service, right? It's an act of service
That's what it is.
that we come to you with these insights and passion. Bars in the tuck needs a flex, Johnny. Gibson, Cooks, Harry, I assume N'Keal Harry, Benny Snell, James White, or Gaskins. Non-PPR thing. So
Jeez.
Yeah, that's
Antonio Gibson,
Lifting his whole team for us.
Cooks, Brandon Cooks, N'Keal Harry, Benny Snell, James White, or Gaskins out of Miami. Bars in the dark. He needs a flex non-PPR. Let's maybe do it like this. Well, Johnny, give me your take first, 'cause I was just gonna filter it through. I was gonna do deductive logic.
That would be fine. For me, it's between Gibson and N'Keal Harry. N'Keal Harry quietly actually had a pretty solid game last week. He would have had a much bigger game, but he fumbled in the end zone, which was a touchback. So that's like minus an 8-point swing right there. So I would actually say that N'Keal Harry going up against a secondary in Seattle that will probably want to stop the run first and foremost, which would open up those passing lanes. So I would probably go there with the one, or Antonio Gibson is interesting. It'll see if they get him more involved, considering Peyton Barber wasn't very effective last week. I know he had a good fantasy day, but he was not efficient with it at all.
What about you, Travis? Any other takes? I know Antonio Gibson's your boy. I know we are aware of the upside he brings. We're waiting for Riverboat Ron to give him the rock. That didn't happen last week. It was Peyton Barber. Gross. But it is what it is. Any other take on Bars in the Tuck on his Gibson, Cooks, Harry, Snell, James White, or Gaskins predicament? Standard league, Travis.
Yeah, I think it's Antonio Gibson or N'Keal Harry for me, and I would probably side with N'Keal Harry just because the game script seems to play out a little bit better for him, and he did see a decent amount of volume. But I do love Gibson's ceiling in this game. We saw Arizona get dusted by both receiving backs for a receiving touchdown, and it could have been more if Jimmy G was accurate. Like, it could have been a lot worse for Arizona last week if Jimmy G could have put the ball on the numbers for those backs. So I do think this is game script that works for Gibson as well.
Although I don't know if
like
you could
N'Keal
say
Harry.
you would rely on Haskins to say that he's going to
Haskins to be more accurate than Jimmy
Yeah.
G. Right, exactly. That's why I'm kind of exactly. You took the words out of my mouth because I'm definitely. Yeah, I know. It's pretty much mirrors of each other, at least in their worst moments. So I would. That's why I'm going with Harry. I think that game, if Cam's going to want to keep up with Russ Wilson, he's going to need to go to N'Keal Harry and Julian Edelman, and so I like his chances there.
I think that could be a sneaky shootout game.
I agree.
Ahmed
Mine
asks,
C22.
or Sutton?
Oh yeah, go for it. Sorry, my bad.
Ahmed asks, CD or Sutton? Cortland Sutton out of the Broncos. His shoulder's looking better, but we're still not clear. So keep an eye. If Sutton's out, you're going CD for sure. Presuming they're both playing, Johnny, you like CD or you like Sutton?
This one's tough. If Sutton's going, I think I'd give it a go for Sutton, because he has the number one upside. He's the wide receiver one for his team, and so if he gives it a go, I feel like the coaching staff has been pretty slow with him, or been pretty cautionary with him. So if they let him go, it would give me signs that they feel confident. So I would go with him. But like you said, you're gonna have to monitor that because they might not let you know until game time. So.
Gurley or Sanders, asks Mason. Travi, I see your answer. Gurley is the choice. Gurley with the Falcons.
Yeah, I think just more easily bankable volume there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, there's no more questions. There's no more notes. Is there anything you'd like to let Whisper Nation know about before we close this one down and see you like in 7 hours?
Make sure you guys are subscribed so that you can get us on Sunday when we do our lineup show. We do it 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We will be going live on YouTube right here to answer all those lineup questions that I know you guys still have more burning ones. Hell, you could even ask the same ones you asked us today. Maybe you'll get the same answer. Who knows? No, but yeah, we'll be there, and so make sure you're liked and subscribed so you can get that content.
Johnny?
Nope. We'll see you guys on Sunday morning for week 2. Until then.
I'm Austin Sear. There's Game Time Hicks. Big Travie.
Peace.
Peace.